Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today doing a recap of our Week 17 loss to the Seattle Seahawks. Not really much of a recap. That was a slop fest. I mean, once I saw it was 6-3, I kind of understood. I didn't look at the weather because Chicago is not always the same as where I live. But I didn't think it was raining like that, so I didn't really realize until I watched the replay from certain angles that it was really not downpouring, but it was raining pretty hard. Not to say that that's an excuse for what the game was. I mean, it's part of it, but I just didn't know that it was raining like that in Chicago. But anyway, that was a slop fest, whether or not. I don't even know. There's not, obviously at this point, nobody really cares much about the wins and losses. Nobody really even cares about the defense, I guess, or even offense. I'm sure people only care about talking about Caleb. And so nothing to really recap in terms of the game. We are who we thought they were. They are who, you know what I'm gonna say. But anyway, this is pretty par for the course every year, especially those who've been listening for a while. You know how it is. I call it, and then it plays out, and we get to a point where we just kind of see it on repeat, and that's where we are now. I mean, the defense playing great in the red zone, playing good in coverage for the most part, no pass rush, run game, linebackers catching, running down our throats, stuff like that. Once it starts getting a little bit horizontal, then we chase it down pretty well, but you know, it is what it is. Definitely more blitz looks over the last few weeks, and I don't even remember. I guess going back to Julius Peppers, maybe. I don't even remember the last, when Tommy Harris was in his prime and healthy, because I'm just like, when was the last time we even had a good pass rush? Because I feel like I've been saying this forever. So yeah, you got to blitz to get some, you got to manufacture pressure because the four aren't getting it, even when Sweat was playing. And when did he get hurt? I must have missed that. I didn't know he was out, but even with him playing, I mean, it's just not enough. So that, it's kind of been the same story. But yeah, like I said, the red zone defense is crazy. So anyway, moving past that and talking about the offense, I mean, what I saw the last 2 weeks, I had mentioned at one point in the community, I was like, it feels like everything's a screen. Now, obviously, not every single play, but we ran so many screens. And last night with the weather, you could kind of say, that was game plan. But honestly, like I said, it was last week as well, because what's happening is, number one, I'm sure that the coaches know, whether the receivers won't admit it or not. I'm sure they see on the film that these guys cannot uncover down the field, especially in this bump and run man coverage that we get. And so DJ specifically, and so they had to just pretty much turn him into a gadget player so that they could use some of his run after catch ability. And that's been going on for a little bit, but these last 2 weeks, the screen game in particular has become so big. So ran a lot of screens, man, and it's just screaming that we don't have the protection to hold up for a downfield passing game, and we don't have a quarterback making decisions right now to have a downfield passing game. And so all that once again is stuff that it's been a trend that we saw throughout the season, and it's still continuing. And the run game, I think, some of it was better and all that, but whatever. It's not even worth dissecting it, to be honest. And I was going to get on here and make a joke about Eberflus and stuff, but I'm not even going to do it because I got nothing against Thomas Brown. It's just, I don't know, man. It just, it blows my mind how every year it's some of the same people, and sometimes it's new people that just really feel they could throw themselves into the conversation like a voice of authority and just be like, you're wrong, this is what's going to happen. And I'd be like, okay. And they be wrong, and I'll be wanting to talk crap. But I'm not even gonna do that because I'm just sad. Like, I feel like my pinky toe hurt watching that game, man. It was just sad to watch. And all I could really think, and I know everybody wants to talk about the next coach. Again, for those that have not heard me say it or read one of the posts that I've said, I'm gonna say it again. I'm not getting into the coaching stuff. We don't. First of all, we're in the season, so nothing's happening right now. It's almost over, but we're still in the season. And I don't really, I wouldn't say I don't care, but it ain't nothing I can do. Like, I'm not in that room, so I don't know what, like this, I'm not ESPN. I'm not just doing content just to fill time. So there's nothing really to talk about until we see who they start interviewing. And once we get the coach, then we could talk about it then. But y'all know my feelings on, if you, again, listen, you know my feelings on a lot of the mainstream topics and headlines of when it comes to coaching. You know my feelings on that. But all I could really thought, I'm not even thinking about that. I'm thinking about the draft for sure, because I'm a draft guy and I got to get into draft mode pretty soon. Probably in the next few days, actually, I'm gonna start getting. It's hard though with the playoffs because now it's extended and it's just I have to usually wait until the list is finalized. I mean, I don't wait. I start making my draft board, but then I have to wait for the list of finalized people who declare for the draft. But with the portal and with the playoffs and with NIL, it's so different now. And from what I've heard, a lot of the top prospects got injured this year, which is different. In all the years I've done this, that's not been a thing. So I don't know to what extent that is true, but if that is true, a lot of them could be going back. So that's why I don't like to make my list too early, but I'm gonna definitely get started with some of the top tier guys that are pretty locked to go into the draft. But anyway, sorry. So I'm thinking about the draft, but really all I could really think about while watching that game is just like how sad this season was. And not to the extent, as I've said, and I continue to say again, not to the extent of like, we were wrong about Caleb or it's Caleb's fault or any of those things. It's really just a sobering reminder. It's not fun. It sucks, but quarterbacks got to go through that transition period. And to be honest, at this point, I don't know why people keep trying to argue against that fact. We've seen it with everybody. And to be honest, it's not even just a young part of your career phase. We see even in people's careers in the middle of their career where they have struggle seasons. We saw Lamar have a struggle season. We saw Pat have struggle seasons. We seen Josh Allen have struggle seasons. And so, yeah, it steps to it in terms of growing in your game. But you're always going to be a product of what's around you, just like the receivers, and everybody's going to be a product of the quarterback. Like, it's a team game. And so there's going to be times where you're just you're not performing. And so, but hopefully, if you go on to be a top tier quarterback, you know that rookie year, those first 3 years, those will be a thing of the past that people won't even really think about too much. But it does suck once you're going through it. But that's the nature of, professional football, is that you have to develop and adjust. And so I do think it's fair for those that have the conversation of, man, they really did not handle this well for Caleb. And I think there's some merit to that. I completely do not subscribe to the whole Eberflus thing, and he should have been fired before, and blah blah blah. That's not something that, like, the whole idea that the quarterback and the coach have come in together don't make sense to me. It makes zero sense, to be honest. On top of that, the whole GM and needs to hire the head coach thing doesn't make sense to me. Never did. So I don't subscribe to that. I'm more so of, you need to have the patience. I don't care what any of these fans say. It's not a good thing that we ripped apart the coaching staff. And because this is week 17, so yeah, we got one game left. So we already saw the result. First of all, I already know it philosophically, but then you saw it play out. So you can sit here and look at the actual film, and I can tell you definitively it was not a good thing. And so I just don't understand why people think that is a positive that people act like it is, when it never usually is. And so you didn't have that patience. You ripped up the staff. The offensive line, like I said, we took some swings and everything. To me, I feel like Shelton, and I hate to say it because he's done some things, but look, there's just certain people that's you're not NFL caliber. I mean, like, as a backup, maybe, but it's certain matchups he will not get exposed. But when they want to expose him, and he could blows the whole play up because he's a center. Like, the quickest pressure on the quarterback is straight up the middle. The quickest way to get to the handoff usually is straight up the middle. And so when he gets exposed, it wrecks the whole entire play, and that's a problem. So that, to me, I feel like leaving him in as a starter was insane. That to me was a questionable move. But outside of that, I mean, and I think Darnell Wright did decent last night, but the Seahawks ain't, they not that type of defense. But overall, he just wasn't up to snuff. Braxton Jones been in and out of lineup, so is Tevin Jenkins. And, Braxton's been the same guy since he's been here, so I'm not going to act like that was new. But, yeah, overall, the O-line, it just didn't marry up to what Caleb needed. And I'm sure that Ryan Poles and Waldron and Thomas Brown, everybody did not expect Caleb to be this far behind in his development. I know I sure didn't, but I'm not in the room. So, but I just think overall, anybody, even of course, Caleb himself, probably like, man, I thought I would be more far along. And right now, Caleb has to deal with handling adversity and failure. And even though USC was not a contender, I'm sure he never felt like he was the problem at USC. So now, not only do you have to deal with, okay, I'm not having team success in the NFL, I'm not having individual success either, and I'm part of the reason, a big part of the reason the offense is not having success. Because for me, and I know I'm bouncing a little bit all over the place, but for me, reading the defense, making the decisions, throwing on the run and all that stuff doesn't scare me as much as these missed throws. That's what really scares me. Now, if I had to look at my notes, but from what I remember about Caleb in my scouting report, his deep ball actually wasn't standing out to me. So there's some people that are like, he was like amazing in college and blah, blah, blah. Was he better? Probably. Obviously a different level of football, but I definitely didn't see him as like a top tier guy when it came to deep ball accuracy. And so I didn't expect a lot, but still what we got is pretty bad. But outside of just the deep ball accuracy, it's just some gimmies that he completely misses. And he's like, and I feel like he's pressing, but I could be wrong. And that's the thing that I think what made Caleb's evaluation so difficult, and to be honest, is going to get worse as we continue because of this transfer portal. I don't know why I can't say that, but it's going to continue to get worse because guys are going to be in so many different teams. But for quarterbacks specifically, you watched it, and as I said many times before, I'm like, he's in a situation where he has to do XYZ, and you don't, now that I'm sitting here today, I didn't really know if he was doing XYZ because of the situation or because that's his actual game. Or maybe his game became that because that's the situation he was in. Because, I mean, it's not super different. The O-line of USC was terrible. And so he was running for his life and stuff, but the pressure wasn't as much. I mean, what were they in the Pac-12 or something like that last year? So the pressure wasn't as much. It'll be in the NFL. The guys obviously not as athletic as they are in the NFL. And then the crazy plays he put down the field, most of the time it worked for him. And obviously it doesn't work that way in the NFL. So for me, it was, okay, this is how Caleb has to play, and we're going to be able to move on from that. And we haven't been able to move on from it. And to be honest, with the O-line performing the way it did early on, he probably got shell shocked and reverted right back to USC. You could tell he stopped trusting the O-line. Now, is the O-line great? No, like I've said that, but there are plenty of plays. I feel like I'm having the exact same conversation I had with Fields and Trubisky. There are plenty of plays where you can't blame the O-line, you can't blame the receiver, you can't blame the play call, and he doesn't make those plays. And like I was originally saying, it's those missed throws that really scare me because there's not a ton that you can do. Like, yes, well, I won't say our team. Is probably going to have to be somebody off season, but could someone work with him where he could add more touch to his throws? He can change up the speed of his throws so everything's not a fastball. Yes. Can he work on reading coverages? Yes. Can he work on his ability in the pocket? Yes. We can do all those things. But if you see somebody wide open and you just can't make that throw, that's a scary possibility. And I would love to feel like, hey, because this is not something that we saw at USC or Oklahoma. So I would love to feel like, hey, this is just a product of just the whole system being bad right now. But that does scare me because I don't know, man. Maybe you got to get LASIK surgery or something. I'm sure he already has LASIK. He got money. But still, that is a little scary. So, I mean, going forward, obviously, you want to get a complete staff. You want to always upgrade the roster. That's the name of the game. And you want to build a system that's going to not only make him feel more comfortable, but he's got to perform so he can get his confidence back. I've been talking about it forever. Like, confidence. There's nothing more important when you're talking about player development at any position. Confidence is what turns the switch. Everybody's like, oh, the switch flipped and blah, blah, blah. It's confidence. Once you are able to see that you can do it, then that motivation and that confidence and that, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you execute at a faster pace because you're not thinking about it. And in the NFL, seconds and inches, you got to execute at a high, fast pace. So anyway, that probably all sounded like rambling, but yeah, we watched Caleb, man, and it was just a year that, it was a rough transition. It was a welcome to the NFL rookie year, and we hope he can get better. I believe 100% he can, and we know he has the physical tools. as I said before, a lot of these conversations, fans will mesh and conflate physical tools, football IQ, results. They'll mesh them all together. Those are independent things. So we know he has the physical tools. That doesn't automatically mean we're going to get the results. And so, we'll see what the next move is. And look, I'll say this because I wouldn't even say I'm trolling, but some people might think I'm trolling when I talk about Ben Johnson. I completely understand. And matter of fact, I've said this many times. I covered this before anybody else covered this. I understand the temptation to want to get a quarterback coach as your head coach. That's essentially what the NFL has been doing for the last 5 or 7 years or so. And so I get that temptation. All I'm saying is that's not no automatic guarantee. And on top of that, to be honest, I'm not going to be able to take fans seriously who went out of their way to critique Eberflus's ability as a head coach, but are getting ready to praise whoever's coming in because of what Caleb does. So if the clock managing is bad, if the challenges are bad, if the situational awareness is bad, but Caleb is playing better or the offense is looking better, I don't want to hear, oh, well, look what he did with Caleb. I don't want to hear that. I do not. We're not hiring a QB coach. So I will not take anybody seriously if we go this route of getting a quarterback coach for our head coach. I'm not going to take anybody seriously if you were over here trashing Eberflus for these last few years, and then you turn around and ignoring those issues with the next guy because he's not a head coach. He's a glorified offensive coordinator. I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm just letting you know right now, I will be calling out all hypocrisy all next year. That's if we go that route. I don't know. I mean, people always think they know the answer. People are going to act like we didn't get Nagy for the same reason. Like things went bad. I wouldn't even say they went terrible, but after that first year, things, were okay. And people were just like, oh, I can't believe they got Eberflus. Who could get a defensive coordinator? What? Why would you do that? And it's like, who in the NFL is not getting a young offensive coordinator to be a head coach? It's like, we did that already, right? Like, seriously? We're going to act like we didn't do that? Now it's, I can't believe we got a guy that didn't have head coach experience. Y'all know we did that with John Fox, right? And so once again, people love to get into really just almost a straw man argument. And it's like, bro, there's no silver bullet. Y'all keep talking like, oh, of course, this is the answer. There are examples where that works, and there's plenty of examples where it doesn't work. So there is no right answer. It doesn't have to be a veteran head coach. It doesn't have to be a new head coach. It doesn't have to be someone with an offensive background. Doesn't have to be someone with a defensive background. You just have to find the right fit and the right person. That other stuff, those labels don't really matter. Again, we seen it work. We seen it where it doesn't work. So I don't want to hear what the obvious answer is, because there is no obvious answer. All we can do is just go forward and see who they get. One thing I do want to say, because I forgot who is it? CM Punk, some wrestler who's from Chicago had mentioned the tried and true fan complaint. Nothing's going to change till the ownership changes. Now, look, I've been saying for a long time how ownership is the most important, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I talk about that a lot, which is why I have to disagree with Bears fans that say that about the McCaskies, because when I'm talking about those examples of like how ownership, like how people scapegoat other people when really it's the owner's fault, the Bears have done none of those examples. The McCaskies, or George McCaskey, he's CEO, he doesn't do any of those things. He doesn't do the things Jerry Jones does. He doesn't do the things Woody Johnson does. He doesn't do the things David Tepper does. They don't interfere. Like, and again, not only from, being a Bears fan on the outside, living in Chicago, but being in the facility, different things I did with the Bears, like when they held the draft Chicago. Obviously, like I said, recently, my line brother was with the Colts, so when they did joint practices with the Bears, I was there. So seeing, like, actually being on the field and like seeing how it operates, McCaskey's and them don't get in the way. Like I said, Kevin Warren, is that his name? My bad, that's not his name, but he has like the power. He has more power than everybody, but in terms of like the employees, not the owners. So yes, that is our structure. Not everybody's team is structured like that. But even with that being said, the owners don't sit in quarterback meetings and be like, hey, I think we should run this play. They don't get on the radio every week and undermine the coach. They don't do those things. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying all their decisions are good, but people are talking about firing the McCaskies. We spend cap. First of all, the cap discussion in the NFL is stupid because you got to spend at least 90% of the cap. So people saying owners are cheap is crazy. Like, there's a floor. But anyway, we spend cap. All the GMs been able to pull big trades off, all of them. So we're able to be aggressive. We move around in the draft. And so I don't know what it is that people are trying to blame the McCaskies for. I mean, so at the end of the day, you want to say, well, they're in the interviews for the GM and the head coach. Yeah, it's their team. I mean, but I'm not in the room. I don't know who gets the last say on those things. As I said before, I don't know who is rooting for who when those decisions are made. But I mean, any owner is going to have to do that. I'm sorry. Like, any owner is going to do that. So if the argument is you just don't trust them to make hires, I guess, I mean, what owner do you trust to make hires? I mean, I don't think any of them really know what they're doing. But I mean, that's why the Raiders are bringing. You talking about a storied ownership, a family. They're bringing in Tom Brady to help with a lot of football decisions. What owner does know football like that? So I'm not really on the sell the Bears train. I don't know. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think, either about Caleb, about the game, about offseason going forward. Whatever is on your mind. Get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe. Remember, stay up and bear down.